Sophie loved her new apartment. It was old with high ceilings and big windows, but it felt cozy, like a warm hug. Her favorite piece was an antique mirror she found in a dusty shop. It had a beautifully carved frame with swirling patterns that seemed to dance in the candlelight. Sophie hung it on her bedroom wall, admiring how it reflected the soft glow of the lamps. It was perfect. One evening, while getting ready for bed, Sophie noticed something odd. Her reflection wasn't matching her movements. She raised her left eyebrow, but her reflection raised the right. A shiver ran down her spine. "Must be my imagination," she mumbled, shaking her head. The next morning, Sophie tried to ignore the mirror. She kept her gaze down while brushing her hair, avoiding eye contact with her reflection. Yet she could feel its presence, cold and watchful. Later that day, she caught a glimpse of the mirror from the corner of her eye. Her heart skipped a beat. The reflection was smiling, a wide, eerie grin that sent chills down her spine. But Sophie wasn't smiling. Sophie's hands trembled as she slowly turned to face the mirror. The reflection was gone. Her own worried face stared back at her. "It's just stress," she whispered, trying to convince herself, but deep down a knot of fear tightened in her stomach. Something wasn't right. That night Sophie lay awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of curtains made her jump. Sleep evaded her. As the first rays of dawn peeked through the window, Sophie finally drifted off. She woke to a strange sound, a soft melodic humming coming from her bedroom. Sophie sat up, her heart pounding. The humming grew louder. It seemed to be coming from the mirror. Sophie's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the mirror, her eyes wide with terror. The humming was definitely coming from it. Hesitantly, she got out of bed and crept towards the mirror. As she drew closer, the humming stopped. The mirror was silent, reflecting her terrified face. Sophie exhaled a shaky breath. "It's just my imagination," she whispered, her voice trembling, but deep down she knew it wasn't true. Something was terribly wrong. Desperate for reassurance, she reached out a trembling hand towards the mirror's surface. Just as her fingers grazed the cold glass, the reflection moved. Sophie gasped, stumbling backward. Her reflection, instead of mimicking her, remained still, its eyes locked on hers. A cold dread washed over her. The reflection's lips curled into a sinister smile, and a voice, raspy and chillingly familiar, whispered from the mirror, "We're not so different, you and I." Terror choked Sophie's voice. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs felt like lead. The reflection in the mirror continued to smile, its eyes burning into hers with an unnatural intensity. "We are one," the reflection whispered, its voice like a slithering serpent, "and soon you'll be free to join me." Sophie's breath hitched. The reflection was moving closer, its hand reaching out from the mirror's surface. Its cold, pale fingers brushed against her skin, sending shivers down her spine. A scream escaped her lips as she stumbled back, her eyes never leaving the horrifying spectacle before her. The room seemed to spin, and a feeling of dizziness overcame her. The last thing she saw before darkness consumed her was the reflection's triumphant grin, now just inches away. When the morning light streamed through the window, Sophie was gone. The only evidence of her existence was the antique mirror that hung on the wall, its surface eerily still. But if you look closely, very closely, you might notice a faint outline of a face trapped within its depths, forever watching, forever waiting. The apartment remained empty, haunted by the memory of Sophie and the terrifying secret of the antique mirror. Some say Sophie is still trapped in the mirror, her screams for help eternally silenced by the glass.